bridge collapsed southeast of Webbers Falls in Oklahoma.
If you think your DIY projects have crashed, wait until you hear about the world's biggest construction fails. These construction failures are next-level bad. So, grab some popcorn, because it's about to get ugly.
Не заходит, ни
The Pisa's unintended tilt. The Leaning Tower of Pisa. You all know that the original construction fail garnered global tourist attraction. It was built in the 12th century. This iconic tower started leaning shortly after its construction began. It happened due to a weak foundation and soft ground on one side. Engineers tried to correct it over the centuries with various methods. They also added more weight to one side, but the tilt persisted. Then, in 1990, it leaned so dangerously that it was closed to the public for almost a decade. After all the efforts to stabilize it, the tilt is now deemed safe, but it remains a symbol of engineering gone slightly sideways, quite literally. The Wobbly Millennium Bridge. In 2000, when Londoners eagerly went to the newly opened Millennium Bridge, they were in for a fun opening of the Millennium Bridge. But instead of a smooth stroll across the Thames, they found themselves swaying side to side. And the culprit was a phenomenon called synchronous lateral excitation. It is a fancy way of saying that when too many people walked in rhythm, the bridge started to wobble uncontrollably. Engineers had to close the bridge for 2 years to install dampers that would stabilize the movement. Today it's wobble-free, but it has earned the nickname the Wobbly Bridge forever. The Lotus Riverside Complex. In 2009, a bizarre scene happened in Shanghai. A 13-story apartment building toppled over like a giant domino, but unbelievably the structure remained intact as it fell to the ground. Investigators found that construction crews had dug a huge pit near the building to make an underground parking garage, but they failed to secure the foundation, so the loose soil and heavy rainfall did the rest. It caused the building to fall sideways, killing one worker and leaving others baffled by the massive, unfortunate event. The Vdara Hotel's death ray. The Vdara Hotel in Las Vegas may be sleek and modern, but it has a sinister secret. Its concave glass facade unintentionally acts as a magnifying glass, so it focuses sunlight into intense beams that scorch the areas around the pool. Visitors used to report melting plastic, burnt hair, and blistering heat. It gave the hotel the nickname Death Ray. After the incident, the hotel added special coatings to the glass to reduce the reflective damage. But the guests will never forget the time they were nearly cooked at the poolside. The walkie-talkie's scorching reflection. Another victim of reflective architecture is London's 20 Fenchurch Street. It is better known as the walkie-talkie. It created a dangerous hotspot in the city. Its concave design concentrated sunlight onto the street below, melting cars, damaging nearby storefronts, and even burning pedestrians. One journalist famously fried an egg on the sidewalk too. As funny as it sounds. The building's owner eventually installed a sunshade to mitigate the problem, but the nickname Walkie Scorchy lives on. The Sampoong Department Store. In 1995, the Sampoong Department Store in Seoul, South Korea, experienced one of the deadliest structural failures in modern history. Over 500 people lost their lives when the building collapsed due to poor construction practices. It had substandard materials used and unauthorized changes to the structure during its construction. Engineers had even warned of potential danger, but their concerns were ignored. The tragedy remains a grave reminder of the consequences of cutting down on the budget drastically. The Tacoma, Narrows Bridge collapse. When it comes to famous construction disasters, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge is the ultimate example of a design gone wrong. It was opened in 1940 in Washington State. This suspension bridge was given the name Galloping Gertie for its extreme vertical movement in windy conditions. Just 4 months after opening, strong winds caused the entire bridge to twist and sway violently before it collapsed into Puget Sound. Engineers later discovered that the bridge wasn't properly designed to cater to aerodynamic forces. It became a classic case of structural engineering for students worldwide. The Hyatt Regency Walkway collapse. In 1981, the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Kansas City hosted a dance party that turned tragic when 2 walkways collapsed into a crowded atrium below. The incident killed 114 people and injured more than 200 people. This made it one of the deadliest structural failures in U.S. history. Investigations revealed that changes to the original design doubled the load on the supporting rods, leading to the failure. The Citigroup Center structural flaw. In the late 1970s, the Citigroup Center in New York City was discovered to have a potentially catastrophic flaw. The building's unique design featured a stilted base, but this made it vulnerable to certain wind conditions that weren't considered during its construction. An engineering student reported this to the project's chief engineer, and secret repairs were made to reinforce the building. The flaw was so dangerous that it could have caused the building to collapse during a storm. Thankfully, the repairs were successful, and disaster was averted. Hancock Tower's falling glass. The John Hancock Tower in Boston is a stunning example of modern architecture, but it came with a dangerous flaw too. Its glass panels began falling off during high winds shortly after its completion in 1976. Each panel weighed 500 pounds and could cause serious injury or death if it struck someone below. Engineers eventually replaced all the glass with smaller and lighter panels and stabilized the building, but not before it earned a reputation as the towering insecurity. The Suez Canal, Ever Given incident. In March 2021, the massive container ship Ever Given got stuck diagonally in the Suez Canal. It blocked one of the world's busiest trade routes for 6 days. The incident wasn't entirely due to human error. High winds and a sandstorm played a role here, but poor maneuvering in a narrow canal also contributed. The global shipping industry suffered billions of dollars in losses, and the image of the stuck ship became an internet meme. Collapse of the Rana Plaza. The Rana Plaza disaster in 2013 is one of the deadliest structural failures in modern history. It killed over 1,100 people and injured thousands. It was located in Savar, Bangladesh. The building had several garment factories and retail spaces. Workers had been complaining about the visible cracks in the structure, but factory owners ignored warnings and ordered employees to continue working. On April 24th, the building collapsed entirely and trapped thousands of people under tons of debris. Investigations revealed that the building was not designed to handle the heavy machinery used in garment manufacturing. Additionally, the floors had also been illegally added to maximize profits, which was another factor in the tragic fate of the building. The Arecibo Observatory collapse. The Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico was an engineering marvel. It had one of the largest radio telescopes in the world, and it contributed to significant scientific discoveries for nearly 6 decades. However, in August 2020, engineers discovered structural damage to the cables supporting the massive 900-ton receiver platform. Attempts to stabilize the structure failed when additional cables snapped under the strain. In December 2020, the platform collapsed catastrophically into the dish below, marking the end of an era of space exploration. People say that better maintenance and funding could have prevented the collapse. The Westgate Bridge collapse. Melbourne's Westgate Bridge became the site of a devastating engineering failure. It was a vital transportation link. During construction, workers discovered an issue with one section of the bridge. While attempting to fix it, a catastrophic collapse occurred. It killed 35 workers. The tragedy was caused by a combination of flawed design, inadequate safety measures, and miscommunication between engineers and construction crews. It remains one of Australia's worst industrial accidents till now. Following the collapse, new safety protocols and stricter oversight of large-scale projects were implemented nationwide. The Chernobyl reactor roof, design flaw. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986 was one of the most infamous industrial accidents in history. But it wasn't just a result of operator error. The design flaws in Reactor 4's roof played a significant role in escalating the catastrophe. The graphite tips of the control rods, combined with the reactor's RBMK design, created a dangerous feedback loop when an emergency shutdown was attempted. Moreover, the lightweight roof panels were made of flammable materials. This allowed radioactive debris to spread far beyond the plant. These flaws and unsafe practices turned a manageable emergency into a global disaster. The Genoa Bridge collapse. On a rainy morning in August 2018, a tragedy struck Genoa, Italy. It happened when the Morandi Bridge collapsed, killing 43 people. It was a vital highway connection. The bridge had long been criticized for its design because it relied on pre-stressed concrete cables that were prone to deterioration over time. Decades of neglect, increased traffic, and insufficient maintenance caused a critical failure during a thunderstorm. The disaster caused widespread outrage and a reevaluation of infrastructure safety across Europe. A new bridge, designed by renowned architect Renzo Piano, was completed in record time to replace the failed structure, but the scars of the collapse remain. The Sao Paulo Metro collapse. In 2007, part of a tunnel under construction for Sao Paulo's metro system caved in. It left a massive crater that swallowed cars, buildings, and a bus. The disaster claimed 7 lives and caused widespread panic. Investigations revealed that the collapse was caused by geological instability and rushed construction timelines. Engineers had failed to properly reinforce the walls of the tunnel, which led to the massive failure. The incident was a reminder of the importance of adhering to strict safety protocols in densely populated urban areas. The Dharahara Tower collapse. The Dharahara Tower in Kathmandu, Nepal, was a beloved 19th century structure and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. However, it tragically collapsed during the 2015 earthquake that devastated the region. Its design was beautiful, but it was not built to withstand seismic activity. The lack of retrofitting and structural reinforcements made it especially vulnerable to the earthquake's intensity. The London Tower Block Fire. The Grenfell Tower fire in 2017 is one of the most harrowing examples of poor construction and material choice leading to loss of life. The fire started due to a refrigerator malfunction, but quickly spread due to the building's exterior cladding, which was highly flammable. The materials used were chosen to cut costs but failed fire safety standards. 72 people lost their lives, and the disaster sparked national outrage in the UK. This caused widespread investigations into unsafe housing across the country. It still remains a famous case of prioritizing aesthetics and budget over safety. The Quebec Bridge collapse, twice. The Quebec Bridge in Canada is infamous for collapsing not once, but twice during its construction. The first collapse in 1907 killed 75 workers due to poor engineering calculations that underestimated the bridge's weight. The second collapse in 1916 occurred when a section fell into the St. Lawrence River while being lifted into place. It killed 13 more workers. The bridge was finally completed in 1917 after extensive redesigns. The FIU pedestrian bridge collapse. In 2018, a pedestrian bridge under construction at Florida International University tragically collapsed and killed 6 people. The bridge was designed using an accelerated construction technique meant to minimize disruption to traffic. However, cracks had been observed in the structure days before the collapse, but no action was taken. Investigators found that the collapse was caused by a combination of design flaws and improper load calculations. To date, it remains a tragic lesson in the dangers of rushing projects without proper oversight. The dam collapse in California. The St. Francis Dam disaster of 1928 was one of the deadliest engineering failures in U.S. history. It claimed over 400 lives. The dam was located near Los Angeles and was intended to provide water to the city's growing population. However, it was built on unstable ground, including soft, crumbling rock that weakened the dam's foundation. Just 2 years after its construction, the structure failed catastrophically. It unleashed 12 billion gallons of water into the San Francisco Canyon. The flood destroyed entire communities, leaving a path of devastation 54 miles long. Washington Cathedral damage. The Washington National Cathedral is one of America's most iconic buildings. It suffered extensive damage during the 2011 earthquake that struck Virginia. While the cathedral had withstood centuries of wear and tear, the earthquake caused significant structural issues. This included the falling of gargoyles and buttresses. The building's stone construction and centuries-old craftsmanship were not designed to withstand such seismic forces. This reveals the vulnerabilities of ancient structures when faced with modern natural events. The repairs were both costly and time-consuming, but also offered an opportunity to blend traditional techniques with modern conservation practices. Katowice Trade Hall roof collapse. In 2006, tragedy struck in Katowice, Poland, when the roof of a trade hall collapsed under the weight of heavy snow during an international pigeon exhibition. The building's flat roof design and poor drainage system allowed snow to accumulate. It had far exceeded the roof's load capacity. A total of 65 people lost their lives, and over 170 people were injured. This disaster reminded the world about the critical importance of structural design considerations for snow-heavy regions. Can Tho Bridge collapse. While under construction, the Can Tho Bridge in Vietnam collapsed when temporary scaffolding supporting a section of the structure gave up. The disaster killed 54 workers and injured more than 8 of them. Investigations revealed inadequate bracing and rushed construction schedules as key factors in the failure. The people responsible for the accident were questioned, and authorities were made aware of the flaws in construction and design, so they could further avoid any such thing. Versailles Wedding Hall collapse. The floor of the Versailles Wedding Hall in Jerusalem collapsed tragically during a wedding celebration. This pushed hundreds of guests into the basement. The tragedy killed 23 people and injured 380 people. The collapse was caused by the use of an untested building method called pal call, which failed under the weight of the crowd. Piper's Row car park collapse. The top floor of a multi-story car park in Wolverhampton, UK, suddenly collapsed. It came down, crushing cars parked below. Luckily, no one was injured, but the structure was said to be irreparable and had to be demolished. The collapse was blamed on poor quality concrete and aging infrastructure. Cater Toy Factory fire. In 1993, a fire broke out in the Cater Toy Factory in Thailand. It killed 188 workers. And once again, the tragedy happened due to poor construction and safety violations. The factory's structure lacked adequate emergency exits, and the windows were barred. It also prevented the workers from escaping the fire. Additionally, there were no fire alarms or sprinklers. The lack of fire safety systems, along with the building's substandard construction, led to a disaster. This resulted in both loss of life and a significant public outcry over workplace safety standards in developing countries. Airport terminal roof collapse. In 2012, the roof of the new terminal building at Mianyang Airport in China collapsed during construction. The roof structure was designed with a unique steel frame, but the supports failed under the weight of heavy rain. The water from the rain had accumulated on the unfinished roof. The collapse resulted in significant damage to the terminal and delayed the project for months. Engineers cited both poor material quality and inadequate load testing as primary causes of the failure point. Teton Dam failure. In 1976, the Teton Dam in Idaho, USA, failed catastrophically just days after being completed. A combination of poor construction methods, geological underestimation, and faulty materials led to the collapse of the dam. This collapse released millions of gallons of water downstream and caused widespread flooding. The incident killed 11 people and caused extensive property damage. This speaks a lot about the importance of thorough geological studies in the design and construction of large infrastructure projects. WTC7 collapse. World Trade Center building. 7 was a 47-story skyscraper in New York City. It collapsed hours after the attacks on September 11, 2001. While the collapse was not caused by a traditional structural failure, the building's collapse was attributed to fires ignited by debris from the Twin Towers. The extensive fires weakened the steel structure, leading to the building's eventual collapse. The incident was controversial due to the fact that it was the first known instance of a tall building collapsing primarily due to fire. Stadium collapse in Russia. In 2018, a dramatic incident occurred in Russia involving the collapse of a stadium roof during demolition. A video captured the moment when the structure fell off while a worker was still on the roof. You can the roof buckling and collapsing in a matter of seconds, and it even looks like a movie scene. Trust me when I say this, it is very important to take care of safety protocols and thorough planning in demolition projects. Metrodome Stadium clash. In December 2010, the Metrodome Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, experienced a significant structural failure when its inflatable roof collapsed. This collapse happened under the weight of heavy snowfall. The Metrodome's roof was designed as a Teflon-coated fiberglass fabric held up by air pressure. However, a severe winter storm deposited a substantial amount of snow onto the roof, exceeding its load-bearing capacity. The accumulation caused tears in the fabric, leading to a dramatic collapse captured on video. But the collapse forced the Minnesota Vikings football team to relocate their scheduled home game. Washington State Bridge collapse. This incident occurred on May 23, 2013. It all happened when a section of the bridge fell down, sending vehicles and people into the river below. The collapse was triggered when a semi-truck with an oversized load struck critical overhead support beams. This compromised the bridge's structural integrity. Amazingly, there were no fatalities, and all individuals involved were rescued with minor injuries. But the event was still a warning for aging infrastructure. In response, a temporary span was installed, and plans for a permanent replacement were rushed to restore this vital transportation link. I-40 bridge collapse. On May 26, 2002, a catastrophic accident occurred when a barge struck a support beam of the I-40 bridge over the Arkansas River near Webbers Falls, Oklahoma. This impact caused a 580-foot section of the bridge to collapse. This also pushed multiple vehicles to dive into the river. 14 people lost their lives. The investigation revealed that the bridge lacked redundancy in its design. This meant that it was highly vulnerable to such impacts. This tragedy led to increased scrutiny of bridge designs and inspection protocols to mitigate the risk of similar disasters in the future. Highway collapse in Philadelphia. In June 2023, an elevated part of Interstate 95 collapsed, and this one wasn't exactly a mistake in construction, but instead, it had a lot to do with the material used. Apparently, a big vehicle had caught fire under the section, and this fire further escalated the situation. Thankfully, no one was injured or killed in the incident, but still, a lot of investigation was definitely needed. Hotel New World collapse. On March 15, 1986, the Hotel New World in Singapore tragically collapsed. It killed 33 people and injured about 70 people. The building was a 6-story structure that had been poorly constructed and was experiencing significant structural weaknesses. Investigations revealed that the collapse was caused by the failure of key load-bearing columns, which had been poorly designed and constructed. The building's foundation was also found to be inadequate for its weight, and there were serious deficiencies in the construction materials and techniques used. Bridge collapse in Syracuse. This footage here is about an incident that occurred on May 15, 2019. This happened when a section of the bridge near West Onondaga Street in Syracuse, New York, collapsed. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured, but the collapse caused significant damage and blocked key transportation routes in the area. Investigations revealed that the collapse was due to the weakening of the bridge's structure. Bridge collapse in Taiwan. A bridge in Nantou County, Taiwan, collapsed on April 27, 2017. The collapse killed 5 people and injured several others. The incident occurred when a large cargo ship was unable to navigate safely, so it struck the bridge's support pillars and caused the structure to crumble. The collapse of the Sishan Bridge exposed flaws in design and safety protocols for marine traffic near key infrastructure. Following the collapse, authorities reinforced regulations for boat navigation around bridges to prevent future accidents. Chilean railway bridge collapse. A railway bridge in Chile's central region collapsed on January 14, 2007. This incident happened, sending a train off its tracks into a canyon. The collapse occurred due to severe corrosion in the bridge's supporting beams, which had been unnoticed during regular inspections. The incident resulted in the death of 2 train crew members and injuries to several others. It was later revealed that the bridge had been in service for over 50 years. Construction failures can be devastating, but they often lead to important lessons that help improve safety standards and engineering practices worldwide. Whether it's a bridge collapse or a design oversight,
I-40 bridge collapsed southeast of Webbers Falls in Oklahoma.
these incidents remind us how crucial attention to detail, proper materials, and thorough inspections are. Hopefully, by learning from the mistakes of the past, we can prevent future disasters and continue building a safer, more resilient world.